Nic Hayes is a communications specialist and managing director of Media Stable. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good evening, Mike. Good to be with you.
Well, the question of the evening is, are the media a pack of bastards?
Oh, I think we can be sometimes, Mike. We can be sometimes, Mike. But to be truthful, this little story that we're talking about here right now just sounds like a little bit of spilt milk.
This is Queensland Premier Campbell Newman, who regarded the state's media as, previously described, by the end of the 2015 state election campaign, according to his authorised biography, very few of them are interested in what really has to be done, he said. They're not interested in government or reform or the reasons behind the decisions we made. They're only interested in the tactical, the here and now, and they only ever look for short-term politics and gossip. And they've got a nerve to ridicule people like me who tried actually to get things done. Well, does sound a bit lower lip, pouty, hand on the hip there, doesn't he?
Yeah, look, it's unfortunate. Look, I think in a way Campbell Newman does have a point, but the thing with politicians, and we've seen it go on for the last couple of years now, is that politics, to a degree, is its own problem. It's its own fault. Partly the reason why media and also, too, the audience of media are almost find what they do just so have such a large appetite for it because it is so ridiculous most of the times. The other thing that Campbell Newman sort of really is probably struggling to come to terms with is the 24/7 news cycle, where media is constantly scrutinising politicians from 1 minute past 12 in the morning right through to 11:59 at night. There is no stopping of this. So he's not fortunate enough to live in the times of a Malcolm Fraser where you could clock off at 5 p.m. and the media stops as well. It just doesn't happen for politicians today.
I saw a remarkable black and white piece of probably kinescope from a very long time ago. This is a few years ago that I saw it, but it was from the Menzies era. And Menzies came out, and I haven't got the wording exactly right, but I sure have got the tone correct. And he said, "Now, we think it's only reasonable that from time to time we let you as the electors, the voters, know what we're doing. Of course, we're not going to do it all the time, but it's only fair that we tell you from time to time. So, here we go." And I thought, well, you arrogant old, there's no way you get away with that now, would you?
You'd never get away with that now. In fact, it's probably the beautiful time in politics that the politicians did have control of the media. The media was dependent on the politicians to give them their time, to give them the opportunities, the little lines that they need to put into the paper, to put on radio, and to get onto our television screens. But it's a very different world today. The media is very much focusing, and they've got a responsibility to the people to scrutinise the government of the day, because otherwise the media, the politicians would just get away with blue murder, and us, the public, would just be sitting there waiting, well, who's actually holding these people to account?
Well, I think they get away with a fair bit as it is. But let me run this past you and get your reaction. I don't think social media as such has that much influence. And the criticism of Twitter is that it's mainly read by other journalists. But in that regard, I think it does have influence, because if there's a bit of excitement on Twitter, for example, and then the mainstream media pick it up, and the mainstream media seem to, I suppose, a bit like politicians be looking for straws in the wind sometimes, they will then run it and say, social media says this and social media says that. So anybody that wants to really can be a commentator and have a bit of an influence. And I do think that sort of grassroots, as much as it is swell, is making a bit of a difference. How do you see it?
Oh, look, I think you've nailed it there, Mike. I think you absolutely nailed it spot on. Everyone out there today is a social journalist and has the ability to go away and communicate, manipulate, talk about the way they feel, the way they think. And today, media does follow social media. They want to see what the trends are, what's emerging, what's coming forward. And instead of the once a day where we would see and sit on a story for half an hour, 45 minutes or an hour watching a story develop, we can get it minute by minute now.
That's right.
And that's the danger for politicians, and it's a wake-up call for politicians, is that they've got to realise you don't have time to sit and think about it too hard, too long. A response has to be immediate, and you have to be ready all the time. And look, unfortunately for the politicians, and poor old Campbell, he's just a victim of today's modern media, where it is a 24/7 news cycle. I mean, I'll give it to one thing for poor old Campbell Newman, and it wasn't always his fault during that state election, and it's hard to believe that state election was only this year. But, at the time, he also was the first premier, I think, that has been really affected by federal politics, to the point when Tony Abbott was, at the same time during the state election in Queensland, did the captain's call and made the Queen's husband a knight.
Yeah.
Now, the backlash that came from that, the punter out there, the voter out there can determine what is federal and what state election politics and issues. But that did him no good at all. He was probably the victim of a perfect storm of media that was all against him, and he really never really had a chance.
Talking about our most recent ex-PM, what do you think about the week that he's had?
Well, he said that he was going to go down quietly and he'd be happy, he's going to support the government and everything like that. But again, a little bit of spilt milk. He's gone to some of his favourite supporters and let them know how he feels.
Yeah.
And, you naturally do that. When things are down, you go to the people that are your friends and you do talk and you do look to get support from them. Look, I tell you what, he's done a hell of a lot better than the former prime ministers that went before us, because they didn't go down quietly. And look, time will tell how the former Prime Minister, Mr. Abbott, will go in politics moving forward, because I think, we the Australian people need good leadership right now, and I think we might see it with Malcolm Turnbull.
But Nic, bottom line on the media and the present media environment as regards politicians, it is the way it is. Pretending that it ought to be another way, or hoping it would be another way, is just wishful thinking for a bygone era, isn't it?
Absolutely. Grow up, politicians. Start to realise what is going on. We, the public, expect a lot more from you, and the media is going to scrutinise you 24/7. There is no time to take time off. You need to be. You've gone into public life. That's what you should expect. And to be critical of media like that, we know that certain media has certain agendas. Yes, they do. But the best advice to give to politicians right now: do your job, do it properly, stand up, believe what you believe in, and be really quite frank and forward with your direction. You don't need to go away and make decisions at the whim because social media, you've seen a few tweets happen. You go away and stand by and by your convictions, and let the Australian people know that you are a real leader.
Nic, appreciate your time and comments once again. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Mike.
Nic Hayes, Communications Specialist and MD of Media Stable.